Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get into it.
Modern man cannot live in an information vacuum. This truth is quite eloquently illustrated by the behavior of the motorist. Sitting in the car and starting the engine, we immediately turn on the stereo to learn the news or listen to your favorite music. Unfortunately, OEM car stereos, even very high quality, do not always cope with interference, which literally stuff the airwaves. The situation is usually improved by installing a good car antenna. But how to determine where the antenna worthy of attention and where a blatant falsification? Harley and Mass Motorist is a specialist in radio engineering, so it is not uncommon when the installation of looking very even presentable antenna not only does not lead to improved signal reception, but also worsens it. Therefore, a little literacy on this topic will not be unnecessary for most of our readers. What affects the confident reception of the car antenna? One of the most annoying manifestations characteristic of radio reception in a car is the periodic interruption of the audio sequence, replaced by chaotic hissing or complete loss of sound. Such effects, lasting from a few seconds to minutes, make listening to the radio pointless. Of course, installation of an expensive, brand-name music center with a powerful built-in antenna could dramatically change the situation, but few people dare to take such a step. It is too expensive, and installation of high-quality multimedia will certainly require upgrading the acoustic component. And this is a different story. So the most simple technically and financially was and remains an alternative way. Installation of a good antenna in a car, about which choice we will talk a little later. Meanwhile, let's consider what factors affect the confident reception of the radio signal. It is believed that the main culprit of errors in the sound of the car stereo is the low sensitivity of the tuner. Meanwhile, the causes of radio interference are much more, and a significant part of them is a consequence of problems in the receiving path of the car radio. Difficult terrain, deteriorating weather conditions, driving in an area with artificial interference, time of day. This is by no means an exhaustive list of reasons that impair radio reception. All of them belong to the category of external, leading to deterioration of electromagnetic wave propagation, and mainly in the ultra-short wave range. There is a considerable cohort of internal causes as well: the quality of execution of the receiving antenna, the condition of the wiring, the quality of the connecting connectors, the physical characteristics of the receiver path of the stereo. Usually in case of interference in reception, hissing, chaotic crackling, interruption, or fading of broadcasting, the standard measure to return the status quo is to reskin frequencies, which allows you to perform a more accurate tuning. However, this does not always help, or only for a very short time, after which the problem occurs again and again. In such cases, you should check if the antenna of the device is the culprit of the poor reception. The list of urgent measures may include checking the quality of the antenna connector. It may oxidize over time. High humidity inside the passenger compartment often results in either increased input resistance or high-frequency currents flowing to the ground due to oxidation of the contacts. Weakening of contacts due to shaking and vibrations, which cannot be avoided, can also have the same effect. If cleaning and tightening of the contacts is unsuccessful, it may be due to poor quality wiring. Usually shielded single-core cable is used for this purpose, the main core of which is directly connected to the antenna or device that amplifies the radio signal, and the cable braid is used for grounding. When connected to ground, it acts as a negative power source for the antenna or radio amplifier. Any damage to the wiring, as well as contact of the central core with the current-carrying part of the shielding braid, sharply deteriorates the quality of reception or, in the worst case, makes it impossible. Classification of car antennas. According to the type of performance, auto antennas are divided into active and passive. The main difference between the active variety is that it includes a built-in radio signal amplifier, which requires an autonomous power supply. Such antennas are usually placed on the windshield/rear window, since their installation on the metal surface of the body, for example, on the roof, worsens the quality of reception. Any problems with an active antenna will result in the amplifier becoming a useless part, i.e., if you insert an ordinary wire into the socket of the receiving device, you will not feel much difference. Much more common are passive car antennas, structurally performed in the form of a metal pin, reinforced outside the vehicle. Since there is no amplifier, the quality of the cable is more demanding. Usually, it is a shielded wiring, which is connected to the stereo either directly or through an intermediate matching device. Experts in radio engineering advise to purchase devices whose rod length is a multiple of the radio wave length. In particular, for FM band, broadcasting at a frequency of 100 MHz, it is desirable to have an antenna length of about 3 meters. In this case, it will be possible to ensure the best quality reception. In practice, of course, an antenna of this length will clearly interfere. Therefore, in most cases are limited to the length of the rod at the level of half or a quarter of the wavelength. It is important to ensure that there is no contact between the metal parts of the antenna and the body of the car, otherwise it is impossible to avoid absorbing part of the electromagnetic energy generated by the device. Of course, the location of the antenna is also important. The higher it is placed, the more effective the reception will be. Do not even try to place it below the waterline of the car. A multiple reduction of the antenna's reception characteristics will be guaranteed. Another source of interference is the onboard network of the vehicle, especially the almost constantly running generator and components of the ignition system, high-voltage wires. In principle, their influence is minimized by built-in means, noise-suppressing resistors, but they can also fail. It is also necessary to monitor the condition of spark plugs, alternator winding, and brushes. The vast majority of radio stations broadcast in the ultra-short range, so car stereos are designed mainly for these frequencies. In Russia, the most popular are two subbands of FM, 650 to 75.0 MHz and 88.0 to 108.0 MHz, and the second subband, which has a larger bandwidth, has more opportunities to transmit high-quality audio content with an extended stereo base. The physical properties of VHF are quite similar to the waves we know as visible light. They propagate in a straight line, but can be reflected from folds in the terrain, and each refraction causes signal attenuation. This brings up another important factor affecting reception quality: distance from radio sources and repeaters. An FM band range of radio broadcasting lies within 90 to 120 kilometers, and if the terrain is characterized by the presence of complex terrain, there may be so-called gray zones. Here there may be no signal at all, and local residents are familiar with such sections of highways. Signal degradation may occur when passing natural and artificial obstacles such as high-rise buildings, bridge structures, tunnels, power lines, large industrial enterprises. There is also an inverse relationship. Near the source of the signal, even imperfect equipment will quite confidently catch the frequency. Read also, the right choice of the best gas equipment on the car. So, when choosing an antenna for the car, you need to consider all the above factors. Finally, much depends on what purposes you plan to use the car antenna. Only for receiving radio signals, or for watching TV for receiving GPS and GSM signals. For listening to the radio, the simplest passive device will do. Simplicity does not mean that the antenna should be of poor quality. Don't forget about it. In all other cases, it will be necessary to purchase a multifunctional device equipped with powerful signal amplifiers. It is desirable that the set included in cables and necessarily shielded, but such a set is characteristic mainly only for expensive antennas. Choose and the optimal length. If there is a shortage of independent, lengthening can worsen the quality of reception, and shortening, in general, is not welcome. External and internal antennas. Depending on the method of installation, car antennas are divided into the following categories: with mortise mounting, with magnets, threaded mounting, suction cup devices, clamping method of attachment. In this case, the installation can be done both inside the car, interior version, and outside. As for external antennas, these are mostly passive devices that are characterized by confident signal reception. The complexity of mounting depends on its type, but here you can trace a clear pattern. The simpler the type of mounting, the less reliable it is. An important disadvantage of external antennas: their outdoor location, subject to the influence of weather factors and aggressive environment. Often such devices are completed or supplemented with amplifiers that allow you to catch quite far located radio stations. It is best to mount them in the highest point of the vehicle, that is, on the roof, but here much depends on the method of attachment and the desire of the car owner to violate the integrity of the body surface. Interior antennas, as a rule, are equipped with built-in amplifiers, and the place of installation of such an antenna does not matter. They can be placed even at the bottom. In this case, you should follow the manufacturer's recommendations, which may specify the distance from the body the device should be mounted. Signal amplification is a benefit that comes at the cost of distortion of the input signal and the greater the power of the device. The more the sound quality will differ from the original source. If you are not satisfied with it, you can cancel the active mode. This function is present in most modern devices. But in this case, you should be prepared for the fact that the level of the received signal will decrease, so that confident reception will not be provided everywhere and not always. The second significant disadvantage of in-salon antennas: they are much more expensive than external antennas. Mounting of external antennas: when choosing a car antenna for the car stereo, you should pay close attention to the way it is mounted. Built-in antennas, including telescopic, are characterized by good sensitivity, but their main disadvantage is the need to drill in the place of installation of the mounting hole. This is a potential source of corrosion, which can later spread to nearby areas of the body. This is why it is so important that the fasteners are treated with a high-quality anti-corrosion treatment when choosing this method. The use of a telescopic antenna largely solves the problem of long rods providing the highest reception quality, because after use, it can be shortened by half or 3 times, depending on the number of sections. But it should be remembered that microscopic gaps between the sections are also a possibility of moisture getting in there with corresponding consequences, so these joints should be periodically lubricated, e.g., with graphite grease. It should also be taken into account that a long antenna when traveling at high speed and strong headwind coins simply break. A few more words about how to choose a telescopic antenna for the car. The cheapest is the manual version, when in order to put it in working condition or fold it, you need to get out of the car. Semi-automatic devices are controlled from the cabin by pressing a button, but it still needs to be mounted, and this is also not an easy task. The most trouble-free, but also expensive choice is fully automatic antennas, which fold and slash out automatically after turning off / on the stereo. But even here there is a disadvantage. It is necessary to connect such an antenna to a special contact, which is not provided on all models of the music center. Magnetic fasteners are among the budget solutions. Nevertheless, they provide reliable mounting, depending on the strength of the magnet. It is easy and quick to install such a device, and equally quick to dismantle it. But even here there is a spoonful of tartar. The length of such antennas by definition cannot be too long, which appropriately affects the quality of the received signal. The second negative point: the device must be removed when you leave the car for a long time to avoid being stolen, and this, unnecessary scratches on the body. Pin or threaded fasteners are used to install the antenna on the roof or rear bumper. In the latter case, the length of the rod can be decent, suitable for these purposes, and various clamps and brackets, mounted, for example, to the car gutter or to the trunk if available. In such cases, the cable must be shielded, and the braid must be connected to the ground. The disadvantages of this method include the need to provide cable wiring into the cabin. About installation of interior car antennas: most often such active devices are mounted on the front window, although from the point of view of absence of interference, it is more preferable to mount them on the back. But then you need to provide cable wiring to the stereo, as part of such devices already has a built-in radio signal amplifier, which requires power connection either through the same cable, which is responsible for the transmission of audio information, or a separate one. The main disadvantage of in-cabin antennas: their high cost, but it is more than compensated by confident reception even in urban areas where there is a lot of interference. In such devices, the adjustment of the signal level is carried out automatically. In addition, the interior placement is advantageous in that it does not affect the aerodynamics of the car and does not require violation of the integrity of the body. They cannot be broken, stolen without getting inside the vehicle, unlike external antennas, especially mounted manually. Finally, such antennas are not affected by external weather factors, i.e., they are at least twice as durable. Connection itself is not a difficult task if a cable with a standard connector is already included in the kit. All you have to do is run it to the sound-producing device. If there is no cable, you will have to buy it separately together with adapters, and for this you need to know its electrical parameters and connector configuration. Therefore, when choosing a car antenna for radio, it is better to pay attention to salon models, complete with everything necessary for installation. Otherwise, except for the purchase of cable and connectors, we'll have to think about how to power the device from the car radio or one of the fuses with a current reserve. Read also, advantages and disadvantages of gasoline ECTO. A few words about the choice of cable, if it is not included in the kit with the antenna, or when the present cable is clearly unimportant or frankly poor quality. About the fact that it must be shielded, we have already said. The diameter of the main core, electricians talk about the cross-sectional area, should also be quite large, otherwise you can forget about the quality signal. Calculate the required wire length in advance and buy a slightly longer wire, but in no case shorter. It is strongly discouraged to shorten the cable, as the connection point will inevitably be flooded, distorting the amplitude and frequency characteristics of the original signal. It is allowed to shorten the cable if there is no connector attached to it yet. Handle the cable with due care. Any mechanical damage will also affect the purity of the transmitted sound. Peculiarities of choosing a TV antenna for the car. The nature of the TV signal, as well as radio, GSM, or GPS, is the same. It is electromagnetic waves, but they broadcast in a different frequency range, so as not to interfere with each other. Therefore, when choosing an antenna designed to receive a television signal, it is desirable to pay attention to a multifunctional device that can work with a signal source of different purposes, AM/FM/TV/GSM/GPS. This will ensure the operation of the whole range of modern gadgets, from a multimedia center to a navigator. Strictly speaking, having a TV in a vehicle is gradually becoming a de facto standard, and while buses and shuttle buses have been using it for a long time, for passenger cars it has only recently left the category of luxury and moved to the more democratic section of comfort. Here there is also a division into passive and active antennas. The latter are more preferable because they do not require the use of any additional equipment connected to a compatible TV receiver. And forgot about the existence of the antenna. The rules for placing a TV antenna are the same as for radio, external or internal, on the rear or front glass, as far away from the engine compartment as possible. If the antenna is passive, it may be necessary to purchase an additional amplifier, which can significantly improve the parameters of the received signal. When connecting to the standard battery or onboard power supply, it is also recommended to use a special filter, the function of which will be to smooth out the interference caused by the power supply. You should not treat the choice of TV antenna for car as a secondary problem. Having a decent, tricked-out TV set, you will not be able to enjoy even its basic capabilities using a weak or low-quality antenna. But a modern LCD TV receiver is a multifunctional device that allows you to view content of different formats and from different sources, as well as connect a large number of additional gadgets, from set-top boxes to Parktronic or Navigator. Another important point, not all foreign-made antennas are adapted to receive the television signal, spread in the range of 1-3 meter wavelengths. With domestic devices is easier. They are originally designed for Russian broadcasting standards. If when choosing a car antenna for radio we cared little about the functionality of the device, then in this case it becomes a very important factor. It is desirable to have a city mode, which allows you to receive the signal in the presence of interference from power grids, mobile, and radio communications, powerful power plants such as transformers, etc. The turbo mode will also be useful, which allows you to use the signal amplification when the vehicle is far from the signal source. For example, on a long trip to the countryside. In any case, when changing the location of the car, power and signal quality will also float, forcing from time to time to adjust the car antenna. Mounting a satellite dish allows you to do without this annoying procedure. But in view of the space cost of such equipment, we will not consider this option. It still remains an exotic even in the West. How to choose an antenna in the car for a radio. The main contingent of portable intercoms are cab drivers and truckers. And since this is a fairly numerous category of drivers, it would be wrong to ignore them. The advantage of walkie-talkies compared to mobile communication: independence from coverage, safety of conversations when using the encryption function. Enough, however, and minuses: busy broadcasting channels and limited range. The latter parameter can vary widely, from 5 to 20 kilometers, and it largely depends on both the radio itself and the car antenna. A fancy walkie-talkie is often a waste of money, as most of its functions will remain unused. The rule "more expensive means better" does not work here. What can't be said about the antenna? For cars, the most common type of antennas are magnetic, which are installed quickly and easily, but for trucks are more suitable. Mortise versions: this type of attachment is more reliable and is not afraid of vibrations. When installing an auto antenna for the radio, should avoid vertically located metal parts of the body if the antenna is located near them. For example, on the fender or hood, the quality of the signal will deteriorate by about 30 to 35%. The most effective are considered to be high antennas with a pin length of up to 2 meters. They have the maximum range and stable signal reception, but with such dimensions there is a high chance of hitting obstacles that are within reach of the device. The use of shortened varieties with a length of 80 to 150 centimeters allows you to get rid of this disadvantage by reducing the gain. Antennas up to 70 centimeters long are optimal from the point of view of aesthetics and less noticeable, but have too short a range of reception. The general installation rules are identical to those described above, but the tuning of the antenna for the radio is extremely important. In this case, without special equipment to ensure the most accurate and high-quality tuning will not be possible. For these purposes, a device called a VSW meter is used, and the procedure itself is quite complex and requires strict adherence to the instructions. Brief conclusions. Having considered how to choose an antenna for a car, we touched on almost all aspects that affect the quality of reception. But since there are a considerable number of them, it is almost impossible to take into account literally everything. We have focused your attention on what to pay primary attention to, what is very important, and what plays a secondary role. Given the fact that the modern market offers a huge number of antenna models with approximately the same parameters, the question of choice will remain relevant for many of you. Without familiarization with the best representatives of devices of this class cannot do without, and we will familiarize our readers with a list of the most popular car antennas in a separate article. In conclusion, choosing the right car antenna involves considering several key factors, including the type of antenna, its compatibility with your vehicle, and your specific listening needs. Whether you prioritize radio reception, aesthetics, or durability, taking the time to evaluate these aspects will ensure you make an informed decision. Remember to research different options and read reviews to find the best fit for your car. With the right antenna, you can enhance your driving experience and enjoy clear, uninterrupted signals on the road. Thank you for watching, and safe travels.